Good morning, classmates. My name is William Sharp, and I'm going to be talking to you about my social impact assessment for Enbridge's Line 5 on building a 4.6-mile tunnel underneath the Straits of Mackinac to house the current pipeline. This image from the Mackinac Bridge of last summer. Description of project, let's get into it. Enbridge Incorporated is the owner of Line 5, first established in 1949, largest, most complex crude oil and liquid transportation system, Enbridge as a whole, that is. Line 5 specifically transports 22 million gallons per day down to the Great Lakes regions from Western Canada. The route through the straits is within an easement issued in 1953 by the state of Michigan. The 4-mile tunnel beneath the Straits of Mackinac will house a new segment of Line 5 oil pipeline. And Enbridge has created a contract with the Great Lakes Tunnel constructors to make this happen. The preliminary designs for construction doubled the initial $500 million price tag. The tunnel project was granted state permits earlier this year, but still waiting on permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and approval from the state of Michigan. But recently, the governor of Michigan has made attempts to shut down the line entirely. Here we go. So this is Line 5. Here's the Straits of Mackinac we're going to be talking about today. Here's a close-up of it. Literature review. So I looked at an EIS draft performed for Pipeline 3, which is also owned by Enbridge. So the draft of the EIS was to construct a new 340-mile line to replace the old line. It's been in operation for 50 years, realizing all these things are really aging and getting to the end of their life cycle. So the report was prepared by Minnesota Department of Commerce, Energy, Environmental Review and Analysis with the Minnesota DNR. So the EIS considered alternatives such as line, rail, and no action alternatives as well. So they looked at human settlements, environmental resources, cultural resources, and compliance with permits. This new line would need to obtain right-of-way permits to cross federal and state indigenous tribal lands, specifically the Leech Lake and Fond du Lac reservations. The EIS process had public review, comments, 8-week period with stakeholders, and public hearings. So they looked at potential leaks, how to monitor that, how would drinking water be impacted, how will cultural resources be impacted. So it's a good review to look at in comparison for making my SIA for Line 5. Looking at another literature is the National Wildlife Federation actually found in a study that economic impact for Michigan oil producers and shutting down Line 5 would be minimal, and other methods would keep refineries running. So existing environments, Straits of Mackinac connects Lake Michigan and Huron, which when connected is the largest freshwater system on Earth. So the waters in this area are extremely important to fisheries, recreational economy, and shipping as well. So understanding the variability of these straits and the waterways is extremely challenging. NOAA makes different models to show how much shoreline will be impacted with the spill, which is 720 miles of shoreline. Actually, that's vulnerable to spills. Similarly, for thousands of years, humans have lived in this area, understanding its ecological and trading potential. Anishinaabe people have lived in this area for over 5,000 years, and high population, still the highest population in the state of Michigan, live in Mackinac County. Other impacted areas, Harbor Springs, higher coasts of Mackinac and Huron Lakes, Mackinac Island, Mackinac City. And actually open waters are at risk as well. Here's looking at the straits again. From NOAA, sort of the variability of the waterways. So public involvement, jumping into my SIA, following Burge's public to be informed and participating in planning. This is huge. Not just telling them what's going to happen, but actually understanding their needs and minimizing inequities and conflict. So obtaining demographic information, it's huge. Being aware of needs, wants, impacts, finding these key informants and advisory groups, and getting really into the social thread of the community to understand how this line is going to impact their life, if the tunnel is going to make them feel more safe, if Enbridge is going to hire them at all, just sort of what their opinion is and how we can do this project with minimal impacts, obviously. Here's some protesters of the line. So the most important categories that I chose were presence of leisure residents. Obviously, this is a massive tourism area. These islands up here are really seasonal. In the summer, have sort of like a 4-month season. So this tunnel and Mackinac Bridge has a really huge seasonal economic boom. Perceptions of public health and safety. So are these people feeling safe living in the area? Their fears and anxieties and their worries, are those being talked about? Are those being understood? Are they being alleviated? Effects on cultural and sacred resources. I talked about this earlier. Understanding that settler colonialism is a current form, is a system that's still alive today. So doing this project, running through the Straits of Mackinac, just disregarding the cultural heritage of the land and disregarding these creation stories and the significance of this land and the sustenance, hunting, fishing, gathering, just all the impacts of the land that Indigenous people see no benefit of the lands. So inequities, is Enbridge hiring locals or are they bringing in experts out of town with specialized skills? See that as a massive problem to be addressed. And then the change in community infrastructure, obviously with such a massive project, what traffic flows, potential damage to recreation, what's going to need to change. So mitigation, I really went in depth with this. I don't think there's great mitigation strategies, but there's some. Obviously compensating economically Native Indigenous peoples is not sufficient, but it's better than nothing. And Enbridge shouldn't profit off of this if they really care about the well-being of the state of Michigan and the people that live in this area. They ought to compensate all of the profits to these Indigenous peoples that are the stewards of the land. So enhance economic inequalities and equities. Let's train, hire, and give sustained livelihoods for locals in the area and not bring in these experts from Canada. And then mitigation strategies, perceptions on public health and safety. Just produce the best product, make sure that it's not going to leak, no cutting corners, and not allowing these fears of the people to come to life. So monitoring plans, identifying these deviations from the action. So how are the anticipated results compared to what's actually happening? And continue to mitigate if necessary, right? So I'd hope that these monitoring procedures will be conducted, just like safety checks and checking on the well-being of the community, daily, weekly, monthly. Hopefully is paid for by Enbridge. Needs to be, in my opinion, checked by local and state governments, and then different environmental councils and justice coalitions. So yeah, that pretty much concludes my presentation of my sort of rough draft of what I'm writing about here for my SIA, with my references. I hope that you all enjoyed my presentation. I look forward to watching everyone else's great job this semester. And have a great summer.